Dude, where's my car?
Dudes and dudettes, welcome back to another installment of the Dude, Where's My Car podcast, the show where if you listen to it long enough, I promise you this, it will shave seconds off your lap time. I'm your host, Tom, and I have my lovely co-host with me, as always, the master of the Shaolin, the man who's bagging every car in Sydney, Mr. Tony Hong, brother. How you doing?
I am wonderful. Very, very wonderful. I'm excited for today.
Absolutely, bro. You had, you and I had a pretty amazing weekend, didn't we, mate? We had our first live show.
Yep.
We hung out with Shannon's and Cars on the Stars.
Yep.
Got to see some pretty hectic, fabbed up cars. What do you think?
It was crazy. Top 38 hand selected, I'd say extreme cars you don't normally see on the road.
Bro, there was a 1951 Chevy Bel Air with an LS2 fucking swapped into it.
That actually sounds cool.
Bro, there was a
Monaro on bags.
there was a 1973 HQ Monaro that was 98% customized and fabbed that didn't look like an HQ Monaro.
20 mil wide body on either side. Just 20 mil, 200 mil wide body on either side.
Yeah, it's just
nuts.
It's just absolutely ridiculous. Like a one-of-one Holden HSV GTSR built by the last one built by the Holden racing team.
Yep.
So that was pretty gnarly to see that in its old canary yellow. So that was pretty gnarly. But Tones, you're absolutely correct, man. We have a pretty important guest sitting in between us today. Indeed. Now, normally I'd go on about some sort of Oreo joke, but today's a little bit different. Ladies and gentlemen, I have an incredible racer on our podcast today. Most notably, he's recently competed in World Time Attack in the Haltech Club Sprint class with his Audi A3. He has an awesome history in competing in championships and tracks across the country, particularly with Hyundai, sporting an i30N or an i20N. I could be wrong. i30N. i30N. He's backed by some pretty incredible brands, such as his own, which is Semi Pro Motorsports. And backed by others such as Project Mu and Racer Industries as well as the like. To be honest, in my opinion, after meeting him and hanging out with him for quite a few times now in the short space that I've known him, he's a man who knows how to have a laugh and take the piss, which I think is pretty important. And he knows exactly when to apply that right foot. And I've seen this firsthand. Everyone tuning in today, I'm speaking about none other than Andrew Price. Andrew, mate, how you going?
Yeah, pretty good. I don't think I've ever had an intro like that, so it's going to be pretty hard to follow up. But yeah, I'm doing great. Way better after that intro. It's barely going to fit in this room.
You can tell I'm just trying to buddy you up because I know you're going to throw me under the bus later. So,
it's coming.
Actually,
how was your day, Andrew?
You just want to get straight into it.
I'll get straight into it.
I mean, it was good. It was a nice 10-hour drive down from Brisbane. We couldn't put off the podcast because obviously Tom's a busy man and we couldn't move it, so I had to work on his schedule.
In my defence, I thought you were already down here, and that's why we scheduled the poddy.
I was supposed to be down here, but then I broke my car and you just didn't care.
I thought you broke your car in Sydney.
No, I was broken in Brisbane. I wouldn't try and reschedule it if I was down here. I'd just get an Uber. It's an expensive Uber from Brisbane.
Okay, just for transparency, everyone tuning in, it's my fault that Andrew has had to come all the way down from Brisbane just for this podcast.
There's no other reason. I'm not picking up my car or anything. It's just Tom.
The shock to my surprise when you pulled in, because when you said we had a trailer, I was like, oh, makes sense. He's got this bearing to fix. He's probably got his race car on the back of his trailer. He's pulled up into the shop. No race car. Where is it?
Yeah, I hadn't picked it up yet. No, the bearing broke on the tow car, so it's fine. It is what it is. It's not your fault. I still had to come anyway, but it's going to be funny. I'm giving you a hard time about it.
That's okay, mate. I'll handle it.
Yep.
I think pretty much every single time that I've ever introed you or for an interview, I've always given you some sort of spectacular Alice in Wonderland availing speech.
There is no way I can live up to that or warrant it. It's just... I'm listening to it. I'm like, this is amazing, but there is no way I deserve this intro.
Mate, I'm not going to lie to you. Do you remember our first ever show together when you had the fat back?
Yes.
Which I believe is no longer in your possession anymore, but that's a story we can talk about later. Yep. But the fatback was there. We were at Hot Imports Night, and it was just a beautiful picturesque background of Sydney Harbour. It remains to this day the intro video to Car Culture Australia because it was just so fucking picture perfect.
It was. It was like I rocked up late. I hadn't organised. All of their emails to us had gone to junk, so I hadn't seen anything. I was like, oh, they were actually chasing info from us. I'd just shown up when I thought we were supposed to get that. But it was beautiful. Hot import nights. That was an incredible backdrop, and there was just my car sitting there around all these other gorgeous modified cars.
Arguably, yours definitely stood out from amongst the crowd because it was the track car that was there.
It was the race car there.
Yeah.
It didn't suit most of it didn't match with the rest of the vibe, but it looked cool. I got some great photos of Sydney skyline in the background. So, but yeah, that was the first time we properly met.
Yeah. Do you actually you don't go to many car shows, do you?
No,
it's not your scene.
No. Not my scene, but they just don't really happen much anymore. Like we get cars and coffee stuff in Brisbane. Rory from Altered International runs an awesome event. So he basically curates who gets in, who doesn't. Usually pisses off a few people doing that. But like we have some really good events, occasionally go to those. But yeah, generally not my thing. And cars and coffee is generally too early in the morning for me to wake up for. I really don't want to get up at 5 a.m. with a Hyundai to go and gate crash people with Porsches and Ferraris and everything else.
That's fair. That's probably because you'd outtake them, right? Like you.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, the mighty Hyundai. Who doesn't love seeing that? Like I love them, but those events are for pretty special cars.
Yeah.
Like there's a lot of gorgeous cars that rock up to those events, and those cars deserve the pride of place of show or whatever.
100%. Well, Tony, I don't know if you agree with this today, man, but I want to run through some myths today with you, Andrew. I want to understand your background. I want to know how you got into racing. I want to know what racing is like today and what it's like competing at such a
high level.
Yeah, Tony took the words right out of my mouth. High level, it truly is. Competing at some of these amazing events right across the country. We're not just talking about Sydney GP here. Like we're talking in every single state. You're going around and you're competing. I think there's a lot of value that you can bring to the table, and probably just a lot of good insight as to what it's really like being on the road, what it's like to be working with brands, what it's like to be in that sort of scene, because to some people, it may be an aspiration or a dream. To others, they may be working the way in it. They're in it right now, but they're just sort of starting out. I don't know. But, mate, I just want to run through all of that today.
Far away. Start.
Well, Tones, what do you reckon? From the beginning?
From the beginning. How did it all start? Where did the passion come from?
So, both mum and dad raced. Dad in particular. He competed in a 48-215, Old Holden, an FX or an FJ. Basically, he held most of the hill climb records along the eastern seaboard. It was a very long time ago, so Norm Beachy kind of era, so in the 50s, 60s. So that was basically where it started. He was the first driver in Australia to be offered sponsorship by Repco, and didn't take it. Decided he wanted to shack up with mum, and I still think he should have done it and then shacked up with mum. At least would have made motorsport a hell of a lot easier. But so that was basically our whole family had been involved in motorsport. I remember when I was 6, 7 years old, getting up at 1, 2 a.m. in the morning and watching Formula One on the TV with mum getting up and going, "You should be in bed." And yeah, so it's always been in the blood. So yeah, it was a family thing, as it is for most people in motorsport.
Yeah, right. So I suppose there's the actual competition level. What were the cars like actually at home? Like, what was the daily driver?
Terrible. So I love my parents. Like, they're great parents, but they had nothing. So they had run a tyre business when I was growing up, and one of the investors in it basically took them of everything. Mm-hmm. So they were on the pension. They ran a not-for-profit group helping guys going through divorce. So they put me through school, always made sure I was clothed and fed, and they were amazing in that respect, but we had no money. I didn't get properly into motorsport until I was kind of 16, 17, and that was just doing motorcanas and hill climbs and then sprint stuff, and then finally got into circuit racing.
Yep.
So, yeah, that was basically it, and that then moved on to time attack and trying to work in the motorsport arena.
Yeah, right. What's the evolution of cars like then, growing up in that time frame? Like, and it could honestly be from, you know, again, the 16s all the way through to right now.
Yeah.
Like, what's the evolution of cars?
There's been some interesting ones. So I had a RA23 Celica, which I started working on and building. And then the first car that I actually ever competed in was a 1987, 87 or 85 Honda Civic wagon van.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah. So it was terrible, but that's literally what I learnt to drive in like an idiot. So I would do hill climbs and motorcanas in it, and then also drive like an idiot on mountain runs. Yeah, so that was how I met a lot of my early mates on Springbrook. So basically when I kind of learnt that I had some sort of ability, and it's not probably looking back the right way to do it, we were on a mountain run, and one of my mates, Daniel, had a Suzuki Swift G13B Series 2, made sort of 300 horsepower as an improved production car. Ran 11s, I think, back then. Like, it was a really quick car. This would have been 2005, 2006.
Yeah, right.
And didn't know him at this stage, and we were on a mountain run coming back from Springbrook and the Glowworms all the way back to Nerang. I was following a mate in a Porsche 944, overtook him in this shitbox automatic Wagger van, and behind us I saw these just crappy headlights coming up behind me and just turbo intake. It's the only thing I could hear, and we've just ended up piss bolting it back into Nerang, and we pulled up at I think it was a 7-Eleven service station or whatever it was at the time, and he's gotten out the car, jaw dropped, and just like, what the hell were you doing in that thing? I was an idiot. Like, I was really lucky not to crash, but that was, yeah, basically he started introducing me to track stuff and doing sprint days and all that kind of stuff. So
Yeah, wow.
It's not a normal motorsport story.
I mean, what is? I mean, that's,
Yeah.
I understand what you're saying.
It's really bizarre. So, like, I just had random cars. I had a 9M3 Polo TDI with a big turbo on it that I built, a Datsun 1600 rally car that I converted in to do sprint stuff.
What?
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah. It was L20B in it, Webers, and like I learned to drive in slow, underpowered cars. Like, that was...
Is that the way, but
Yeah.
that's a question.
It is.
Yeah.
I argue this to no end with people. It's like, buy the slowest car and put shitty tires on it and go out and learn to drive.
I think that's the best way. Plus, driving slow cars fast is fun.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Like, it's fun, but everything happens slower.
Yep.
If you go out and buy a car with semi-slicks and sticky tires and really high performance limit, when you overstep that performance limit, everything happens quickly. You don't get the time to analyze what went wrong. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I will advocate to the day I die that buy a slow car and drive it as hard as you can, particularly if you don't care about it.
Yep. So I'm glad you pushed that message. We push a somewhat of a similar message. Maybe it's not necessarily always targeted at slow cars, but I think we always try to push people into the realm of, like, you need to go to the track and you need to understand how fast you can actually take a corner, because it will, I guess, for some, shock horror, make you realize very quickly what you can and cannot do inside of a car.
Yeah. And the track is really different to the street. So I kind of skipped over it. Like, I did a lot of sim stuff when I was a kid, like early sims. So I kind of had a little bit of higher cut stuff. So I had a concept of racing lines, and obviously my dad taught me. But I see all the time people going out to the track. They've been what they think is quick on the street, and they get out to the track and have no clue about lines or anything. But yeah, so yeah, that was kind of how I learned. Slow cars are the best to learn in. Just drive them hard and don't care about them.
If you had a car that you could actually tell someone to go buy right now, a slow car, what would it be?
If you wanted something like EG Civic,
Yeah, wow.
B16, something along those lines. Even like the Sportivo Corollas or even just a base model Corolla.
Yep.
Just absolutely anything and just put average tires on it.
Yeah.
So it's really just keep the performance level to a minimum. Particularly street tires, because you'll hear them squealing and screeching on the street. That's the tread blocks moving around, and that starts giving you a warning that you're approaching the edge and you can feel it moving around as you progress up to slicks. That disappears. It's one big tread block. So by the time you get to the stage of stepping over that boundary, it's there, and it happens really quickly.
Yep. Yep.
So.
What was like, man, I've got fucking questions for days. Eh?
Cool.
You're like, honestly, you are just giving your background and your story and like your evolution and growing up with the car itself and being in the track. You're quite possibly the best person to ask any question around like the mistakes.
I
Like,
make heaps, yeah.
yeah, but do you know what I mean though? Like just knowing, like there must have been times where you were super cocky.
Yeah, but it never really bit me until I was racing Swifts.
Yeah. Okay.
So I got into the Swift series and that cockiness kind of improved because I was the only person in the series that hadn't really had coaching. I had no background in motorsport. I just got into circuit racing off my own back and went out there, and I was basically as quick as the other guys. I didn't have an engineer. I had to set the car up myself. I got a bit of help from the category. The category was great in that respect, and that was where I learned a hell of a lot of stuff. But yeah, I basically got cockier and cockier until we had a enduro race in the wet with the production touring cars. So it was a mixed grid. We had the Swift series and production touring cars, and there was Evos and whatever else. And I think we qualified down in 30th, I think first or second in the Swift series, but way down the back of the grid, and wet race. Mm-hmm. First lap, I think we drove to 10th at SMP in the wet. Got to that final complex of corners. I put it in the fence, trying too hard, trying to catch the leaders. And that was my first real wake-up call of, it got a bit too cocky.
Yeah.
Needed to use my head.
How many cars have you crashed? Oh,
Two or three.
That's pretty good.
Yeah. Like on the, I've had probably 4 or 5 accidents.
Yeah.
But like 2 proper crashes on track.
Yeah.
Couple out in the street being an idiot, but yeah.
We've all got it.
Usual stuff. Ellie's, the big crash was Ellie's E30 that she built. So that didn't go down well.
Fair enough.
Yeah, so put that in the fence at Lakeside. But that was more a mechanical failure than driver being an idiot.
Yeah, fair enough. I suppose just like going back into like the evolution again, like what's something that you find maybe it was profound to you at that point in time? Obviously we're going well back here, many years, but is there just anything that stands out to you where you go, hey, I fucking, like, you know when you just do a lap or you just do a round, you're like, I fucking learned something off the back of that, like I should or shouldn't do, or it just kind of blew you away a little bit?
No major things. I think for me, I was quite fortunate where I came along, and probably because of my upbringing and everything I did, I got into a car and naturally could kind of feel what the car was doing, and there was some natural ability there. There was heaps of shortcomings, don't get me wrong, but I understood what a car was doing and kind of didn't need to learn some of those basics. So a lot of it was just on repeat. I would just try things, change braking zone, change braking pressure, change steering inputs, all those kind of little things. And predominantly that was done sim racing, and I would just make small incremental kind of changes. So nothing drastic. The biggest stuff came when I started trying to teach other people. So I got a job working with Paul Stokel, doing sort of motorsport coaching and a couple other places. And I would try and explain what I could feel or what I wanted them to try and do, and I sucked. I could not explain it to people at all. So
you're a driver.
Yeah. Like I knew what I was doing in my head, and I could understand what the car was doing, but I didn't know how to explain it to other people. And I think that's a really common issue for a lot of drivers.
Yep.
So yeah, look, a lot of that came then with about how cars work balance-wise, shifting weight forwards and backwards and around, and how the tire interacts with the road and all those things. So like those big brain moments, I suppose, sort of came back when I was trying to teach people.
Yeah, right.
But yeah, there's not a real specific one I can kind of go, this is the thing that will fix all your driving. It depends on the person.
No, I know that. Like I know it's a very incremental change. And yeah, I also know that you never want to make too many changes at one time. Otherwise it's like kind of spraying and praying and thinking that something's just going to stick, and that's just not how it works.
I suppose that's one of them. Just literally we would work through corner by corner. So on a sim, I would sit there working on 1 or 2 corners or 3, like a series, just doing it on repeat until I eventually got it right, and you just reset the car and go again and again and again.
Yep.
So I suppose repetition and just keeping it simple, doing one thing at a time.
Yep. Do you think it gets easier the more tracks that you go on? Like, as in, sorry, what I mean by that is Sydney Motorsport Park is very different to Wakefield. Wakefield is very different to Marulan. Marulan is very different to anything, right? But fair to say you've driven almost all?
Pretty much everything on the eastern seaboard except for the new track up at Townsville and not Pheasantwood, the other one that you've got down here in Sydney. The other small track.
Luddenham.
Oh, Luddenham.
Yeah, I haven't driven that. But yeah, driven everything else.
Not to mention the 2 other weird private tracks that have just opened up north of Sydney as well.
Yeah, I haven't driven those as well.
We're all trying to get on that.
So yeah, driven most of the other stuff. It helps a little bit. But honestly, most of the really good drivers, they will correlate a corner from somewhere they've been before and just go, okay, this corner is like from this other track that they know well. And that's how they learn tracks incredibly quickly. That's why you saw, I think, can't recall where it was, Liam Lawson went somewhere where he hadn't raced before in the last couple of rounds, picks the track up really quickly. Yes, they've been on the sim, but they just apply that corner from another track to this track. There's only so many different types of corners.
Yep. There's got to be something fascinating about a brand new track that's been opened. Let's use Wakefield as the example here. Wakefield previously to me was my favourite racetrack, right? I can't really say that anymore because it's changed. It's got an extended straight now. It's got a few little turns here and there. Apparently, and I don't know if this excites you as much as it excites me, but there's so much like there's like a learning curve now because you can now take the corner and yes, there's a new track, but entirely differently, and there's so many different ways to attack it now. That gets me toey.
Yeah, the first sector of corners and then coming onto the straight are entirely different. There's probably 2 or 3 different ways you can kind of take that depending on your driving style and car and everything else. And yeah, that's exciting to go and learn. That's why Tail and Bend, the East Circuit, is amazing for it. It's so technical. The corners are a lot like any other place, but there's just so many of them and there's so many different combinations that you just, every time you go back out, you're kind of learning a new way to attack it, and you could drive that place for ages and you'll still never get a perfect lap.
Yep.
And that's exciting. That's fun.
Yeah. Does that keep it fresh for you?
Yeah, it does. I mean, like, motorsport's just fun.
It's fun and pain.
It's pain.
So for like a beginner, would you say get them to master their craft at one track and then go off?
No.
Don't
the
do
exact
that.
opposite.
Good question.
The exact opposite. That is a really good question.
Yeah.
There are a lot of one-track wonders.
Yeah.
They will drive the one track over and over and over again, and they will be great at it, and then they go elsewhere and they just are nowhere. it disappears. So, like, variety, like if you're at the track, just repeat the same things over and over again, but try and get as much variety as you can. Drive different cars, drive different circuits.
That's interesting to hear.
Because it gives you an adaptability. Like, you can go out when you become adaptable. Like, if you do the one thing over and over again, like you drive the one car, you drive the one track, you get to a point where you're not driving by reaction or instinct, you're driving by expectation.
Muscle memory,
Yeah. So you're driving the car to a certain limit and you're expecting it to do a certain thing. And sometimes it might not do that, but that's what you're doing. You want to put yourself in a position where you're doing something that you're not expecting. You don't know how the car's going to react. You don't know what that corner is or how hard you can push it. So that way, when you start driving slightly over the limit, you can respond and react to it.
Right, interesting. Yeah,
It is interesting.
That makes sense because you hear a lot of people where they're like, "I just mastered this track," but then that's all they know how to do.
Yeah,
I think, and if they face something different, it's a blank piece of paper to them.
Yeah, there's a lot of people like that, and they will struggle to adapt. So there's a certain bit of repetition, but there's also just going out and trying new things.
Can I say something that stood out to me just then about what you said? That you said trying different cars. To a lot of people, they don't really have necessarily a lot of different cars. Well, they don't have access to it necessarily. But I agree. I agree with you completely on that because, I mean, we can get into even front wheel drive, rear wheel drive, or all wheel drive about this. But like, they all behave very differently. Like, they all dance differently. They all like the way to master the art of doing those things.
Yeah.
And probably an even better question: what, in terms of driving style, what leads you to driving the style that you have now? Or can you do it all? Is a better question.
I won't say I can do it all.
Guy gets in an ego, bam.
I think I can drive anything quickly with enough practice. So the shit thing about motorsport is it's really expensive.
Yeah.
So to do things on repeat is really expensive. So like your point of people having difficulty driving different cars, it's hard. Like motorsport's not one of those sports where natural ability kind of gets you anywhere. You have to have the money to go with it. But yeah, like sorry, I've kind of lost track of where the question was going.
No, I just meant like what leads to the driving style that you have today. Why?
Sorry. Yeah. I don't know. Just I drove a whole heap of different cars and just kind of what I fell on.
Yeah, right.
Some of it was just, I think a lot of it was analytical where predominantly my driving was sim because it's cheap. So you would just do stuff on repeat. And if you saw a decrease in your lap time, that was the right thing to do.
Yep.
And that was kind of what prompted, like that's what made my driving style.
Yeah, right.
So like I drive quite heavy on the front wheels. So like I'll drive the car in quite hard on the front wheels and get the car sort of rotated through the middle of the corner. So that's probably something that is not uniquely me, like that's similar to Craig Lowndes and a number of other drivers. But yeah, like there's a whole heap of different ways and it's just however you learn.
This can obviously lead down quite a technical path, right? And we can touch on it. I've spoken about it a little bit before with Tones, just in regards to, I called it, are we building spaceships or are we building cars? And World Time Attack is no doubt one of the easiest ones to pick at this because what is the level of fine-tuning suspension that we have compared to how much aerodynamics a car has with gigantic splitters and wings and
aerodynamic louvers
and rocket ships. Like how it drastically changes and transforms everything that's going in a car, particularly the speeds that you're going at.
Yes.
It's absolutely insane. Is that level just leagues above what everyone actually thinks it is?
As in where the level of development is with those cars?
Yeah, and also just compared to like just driving normally without all that stuff on your car.
Okay, yeah. So in some respects, if you've got a good team and they set the car up properly, Time Attack is a really terrible sport for hiding driver ability. There's I'm not going to name names, of course, but a checkbook in Time Attack can really hide flaws in people's driving. But then on the flip side of that, you've got guys like Trent Grubel, Josh Buchan, who they're still going to be 2-3 seconds ahead of anyone else in the same car. So yeah, technology and the level of the cars, yes, it does change how you drive and how you set them up, and it also hides people's bad habits if you've got a good team around you. Like a motorsport ABS system, when it's in its really safe conservative mode, will probably save you looking like a bit of an idiot. If it's in its track, sort of getting the max lap time out of the car, it can make you look like an idiot really quickly because it's not designed to stop the wheels from locking so much. It's designed to sort of help get the car rotated. So someone who's really quick can make use of that.
Yep, for sure. Is there any, like, I do agree with you. I really do. Like,
it's a hard topic to kind of talk about without.
But we're not here to like name and shame or like throw shade at anyone. No, that's especially not where the question's going. Like, I do find it very interesting though, the technology that goes into it, because we're talking about millimeters, we're talking about microns of a second. Like, we're talking about, and I get that that's racing.
Yeah, I think in the electronic side, so the Motec side, you guys like Phil Armour are getting pretty much the most out of the cars. I think there is still quite a way to go on aerodynamics, particularly in Club Sprint and Open. Like Sydney Composites do a great job. Like their universal splitter package is great. It's probably better than anything else on the market. But I think there's still a fair bit of lap time left there from going to a full boutique or unique setup there where the car's laser scanned and you make individual components for that car. So yeah, we're reaching maybe not the limits, but getting towards the limits in some areas. And then I think other areas there's still a fair way to go.
Really?
Yeah, I think so. Particularly the aerodynamic side.
Okay.
Suspension side, you're probably not too far off. You've got guys like Modal, like DNA, that are as professional as you can kind of get at this level. And there are others as well, like Peruzic, PE Engineering, or whatever they are. So there's a lot of really high level guys, and they're probably at close to the limit of what's legal within the rules. I definitely think the limitation or shortcoming at this stage is aero.
Yep, for sure. It's hard not to look at some of the cars that are World Time Attack. I'll happily name, I'm not throwing any shade at this person, but like Tanuki, for example, and you look at the freaking spaceship that was thrown on that car. Yeah. I had to see it for my own eyes because I saw the photo, but then when I walked into the garage, I was like, what the fuck?
It's a big rear wing.
Yeah, that's cute.
Those end plates are massive.
Oh, I don't even know if calling a wing is like an understatement these days. Like,
it's great for marketing. Like you put all the stickers on the side of it.
More sponsorships.
Yeah.
Oh, it's awesome. Cool looking car. Don't get me wrong. It looks like the Batmobile pretty much, but oh man, I don't know.
Like Pro Class, I think it's not at the limits. You can get way more intricate. Like if you like Formula One, you get way more intricate with stuff, but they're starting to approach what is realistically the limitation with budgets and manpower in that category. The shortcomings still are in Open and Club, where people are still relying largely on universal aero. The Supra, Wayne Lee, is it? No, it's not.
Wayne Lee.
Sorry.
No, that's
no, that's Tanuki.
That's Tanuki.
The other Supra that didn't run this year, that had
there was another Supra.
There was, but there was the purple one that was supposed to run that didn't run this year. Complete mental blank. Yeah. So he's got a bespoke front splitter, and I would guarantee there's probably a fair bit of a lap time gain in that compared to the universal stuff. Yeah,
fair enough.
So
I got a good question then. Considering, be it World Time Attack or any other type of race, actually for yourself, how much do you have all the say about your builds and your cars and how it's going to work? I know there's a rule book, but do you have full control?
Depends on the team.
Yep.
So I try and have as much control as I can over it.
Okay.
So with the Audi, that was predominantly, I went through and did the calculations on what I wanted with spring rate. Chris then went through and worked out what he wanted to do with valving and everything else. This aerodynamic package I worked with A&B on. I used to do some of his technical writing, so I had a connection there and he helped me with that. And then I screwed up and made the roll center adjusters the wrong size, so it was binding up. so all of those dramas were on my back, which I don't mind. But yes, I try and have as much say, and I think I'm in a unique position compared to some drivers because I have a little bit of a technical background. As I said before, when I was racing the Swifts and everything else I've raced, I've had to basically do most of the engineering and setup myself with help of others. So yeah, I try and stay as involved as I possibly can with it.
Do you love it?
Yes.
Yeah.
I love the technical side of it. So same with the driving, but I hate wiring. I hate engine stuff. I like fabrication, but I'm not very good at it. But on the chassis and setup side, I love that. Because ultimately that's where you get a lot of your lap time. If you have a heap of horsepower and your chassis is terrible, then you can't put it down. So, and it's probably just because that's the part that I've been able to work on the most. I love that part of it.
Yeah.
So
does that lean you into like the cars that you're driving today with, I suppose, Hyundai and the Audi? And is that necessarily personal preference, or is that just...
No, the Hyundai, I just really love the brand. I think for... currently, out of all the hot hatches in the community that they were kind of building, it's just a whole heap of fun having the track warranty and everything. It was just a logical choice. The cars handle pretty well. They're fun to drive. They're pretty reliable. That was basically what prompted that decision. The Audi, I really wanted to build an EG Civic, but I didn't want an EG Civic. that was basically it. So
fair enough.
yeah, it's a terrible EG Civic. It's not one in any way, shape, or form. It doesn't have AA arms in the front. It's got it's a max drop front end. It's a torsion beam rear end. The only redeeming benefit to it is the engine and the curb weight of it. That's literally the only things going for it. I just didn't want to build another Civic.
Yep, that's fair.
Yeah,
it's a pretty mean looking Audi. I'm not going to lie though.
Yeah, it looks cool.
Yeah,
just doesn't go very well yet, but it will get there. Like the engines in them, Australia kind of misses out, but the 1.8 litre engine in them overseas is really popular. It's a really solid engine. We made 530 horsepower on 24, 25 pound or something with no timing in it. It was super linear, like it drove great. It was just teething problems of trying to turn a car. We thought the car was finished and ready to go, minus some fix-up things 2 months before World Time Attack. And we started pulling stuff apart and it was a mess. So that turned into a 2-month build. So all the setup and chassis work that we wanted to do didn't happen and it just showed up down there. But yeah.
Is that, out of curiosity, is that kind of like how the cookie always crumbles? Do you think maybe towards such an intense event, like everything's fine and then low-key there's actually a lot of work to be done? We've got to cram it in there as much as we possibly can before the event.
Look, from my side, that was purely just supposed to be fit a new gearbox and get some other stuff tidied up. It wasn't intended to be so intensive. I think for a lot of people, it's trying to get modifications or performance gains done before the event actually occurs. Mm. Like they're trying to chase lap time with modifications rather than probably just driving the car. So I think like there's an A and B to that. Like there's some people in one column, there's people in the other.
Yeah. Driver UI. Yeah.
Yeah. Try to be. It's still nice to do some testing. Like with the fastback, we built that in about 4 months and we still got to drive it and make setup changes as we went, which is what really helped. You can't just go into an event like that with no testing and expect to get a result.
Yep.
You're just going to embarrass yourself.
Yeah, yeah.
Which I went in knowing it was going to be an outside chance of getting a result. But yeah, a lot of people go in ill prepared.
Yeah. I think I do actually remember coming into your garage at one point. It was day 2, right? It was day 2 I came in there.
Both days were a mess. But
yeah, I do remember coming in. Yep. There was like a part just like leaning against the door or whatever, and you were like, you just had such a fucking huge day. Like I could just tell.
Yeah, just the lead up to it. Like we finished the car the week of. We got it on the dyno the week we were leaving, I think, and then, or just before the week we were leaving, went to go and do a test day up there at Morgan Park, and a supplier sent out the wrong part, so couldn't do it. Got the car down there, and because we didn't get to do any of that proper setup and testing, we just had teething issues down there.
Yep.
It was really minor stuff, but it was the wheel falling off. It was minor in what it was, but the outcomes were pretty crap.
Yeah, it's funny, man. I've actually spoken about this at length before, particularly with other drivers. Nothing on air, but a lot of people talk about like the sound of motorsport and what that truly is. And there's certainly, it could be straight cut gears. It could be the sound of going down a straight. It could be, there's a lot of different things, right? There's a lot of scary moments in motorsport. There's a lot of the hard times, a lot of blood, sweat and tears. For me, at World Time Attack this year, it was the moment of silence. No doubt with Cole, it was pretty intense when that car kind of blew up in flames and like a million things probably rushed through your head, let alone his own.
Yep.
And I think no doubt standing out like an actual professional driver, he knows how to handle that situation pretty well and good on him. And something similar kind of, I guess, happened to Ellie. And my question is, like, is she actually okay after what happened? Because it's funny, like I interviewed you and I actually really wanted to interview Ellie like almost immediately after, but she ran away.
Yeah, I know, that was not a good time to interview her.
But then it happened afterwards. And I didn't.
That's right. Yeah.
And I didn't get to. Obviously, I didn't get to see you guys after that because it was a bit obviously full on, and you got to respect people's boundaries. But is she all right? And how do you handle something like that?
She's really good. So in the car, there's a video of her being a bit of a mess.
Yeah.
But yeah, honestly, she's fine after it. And the reality of that crash was she just hadn't driven enough for the year, and she got blocked on one of her previous laps, and where she was on for a 146, a fairly solid PB, and she just went out the next session and just tried a little too hard. And when she came back in, I kind of spoke to her. I was proud of her overstepping that boundary, and yeah, she put it into the fence. It was minor damage, but you're never learning unless you overstep those boundaries. So, yeah, I think from that end, I think the response from the team around her and everyone, like she had Harry Hayek there helping to coach, was just like, hey, it's fine. You're fine. Car's okay. It's happened. You've learnt from it. That's all it is. So we're all proud of you. It's all fine. I think that helped. So yeah, it was just a case of getting her back in the car as soon as possible.
Yeah. I mean, it's honestly, that's like, it's on every single level, everything from sportsmanship to the emotional stress to overcoming that, and as you said, pushing the actual envelope in terms of the boundaries and actually getting out there and actually giving it a go. I love that shit.
Yeah,
I really do. I love it, man.
Yeah, I'm proud of, like in her case, just overstepping those limits and crashing. It's so easy to drive under the limit and not risk anything, but to go out there and overstep those boundaries and push it and potentially look like a dickhead on TV or on the internet, whether people think you are or not, that takes some courage.
Yeah, for sure.
And she'll learn from it and she'll get better.
Yeah. So, yeah, she will.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
On that note, I want to ask, what's your, like, the feelings that you go through knowing so many people are watching you, you're broadcasted, you're live everywhere, all over the world. Everyone's watching.
Yeah, the world is watching.
The world is watching. Like, how does it feel? Like,
I kind of just don't care about
it's
it
all
anymore.
blocked out.
Yeah. When I was in my 20s, I definitely would have cared about, like, if we had the issues that we were having at World Time Attack with the freaking wheel basically falling off the car. In my 20s, I would have been so embarrassed over it, but I was over the moon that we got there. Like, the team in the background, and people came up and they're like, oh, how are you so happy about this? I'm like, this car hasn't run properly for 6 years. We had to rebuild it in 2 months.
Pretty impressive.
Yeah, like, that's why I'm like, I'm over the moon that we're here. Sure, I would have loved to have done a test day beforehand. I'm just happy to be here. Yeah. So, like, you can't let other people's opinion of you dictate, like, how you're going to go out there and what you're going to do. Because if you're worried about the consequences of you overstepping a boundary, you're never going to push. You're never going to be good. So, like, what Max Verstappen's going through at the moment with the last race with 20 seconds, he's pushing those boundaries, and people dislike him for it or they judge him for it, but he's the one that's won 3 world championships. You get there by being on the limit. You don't get there by being safe and playing under it.
Yep. Impressive. Is Max your favourite?
Don't know as a person, but as a driver, I think the reality is that you have to have that mindset if you're going to be
at
great.
That level.
If you're at that level. And I think every single racing driver that is any good has, I don't know if it's an ego, but they have a self-belief. And realistically, it is an ego, and there's a little bit of self-centeredness. I think every single professional athlete has that. You have to have maybe this unrealistic belief that in the right conditions you're better than everyone.
Yeah, there's that extra 1% that they have for them to top it in that race. But it can be topping in the next one. But that one race, that 1% makes a difference.
Yeah, like it's just there is a different belief system of the people that achieve great things than those that kind of just wander around doing the average.
Yours is just hiding in there somewhere, is it, Andrew?
I think so. I definitely haven't achieved greatness.
I think you have, mate.
Yeah.
No, look, I have an ego, definitely. Like I think if I had the opportunity to go out and race and in pretty much any category with the right sort of backing, I could go out and be competitive. I definitely haven't fulfilled that. Like I haven't competed at the levels that I would like to. But I still have that belief that I could go and do it.
Absolutely, mate.
So
has that led to the next question? What do you want to race in?
I would love to race TCR or TA2. I think they're realistic. The 86 series is great, but it's a young kids game with parents that have enough money to repair their cars. TCR and TA2 probably isn't too different, but they're probably outside of supercars and Carrera Cup, which is just way outside the realms of possibility. They're the two best categories as far as drivers go. TA2, you have great drivers, James Moffat, Ben Grice, a whole litany of others. Like almost everyone in the category can drive. Same with TCR. If they can get some decent grid numbers, then like you've got Josh Buchan, you had Tony D'Alberto in it.
Yep.
You've got a whole heap, Zach Suter, you've got a whole heap of guys that can drive.
Yep.
And that's who I want to compete against. I don't want to go out and race in other categories where it's filled with gentleman drivers or I'll race. Don't get me wrong. I'll race absolutely anything, but I want to compete against the guys that are the best in the country.
Yeah, right. Mm-hmm. And what do you think it's actually going to take to get there? I mean that as a genuine question.
Money.
Yep.
It's the reality of it. Motorsport is a business.
It is, yeah.
So someone has to pay the bills. Motorsport teams aren't going to go out and do it out of the goodness of their heart. That's how you lose money. So it costs a lot of money to do it. So realistically, if you're running TA2, you're probably looking at $200,000 to $300,000 for a year if you don't do too much damage.
Yep.
TCR is 350 grand plus.
Yep.
So you can quickly end up spending $500,000 a year.
Let's just say it's safe to say that I've seen a fair few media kits in my time.
Yes.
Given where I work for TCR.
And look, that's the hard part. There is no value in any of them. Like there is maybe some. There's maybe a few people who can stand out and actually provide some value on a media or social media front. Cole's probably one of those people that you worked with. He's got such a following. But 99% of the kids and parents of the kids who are sending out proposals, there is absolutely no benefit in them. And it's hard. And that's how sponsors get burnt and they get burnt. It's
funny that you say that, mate, because coming from the background that I do, there's a few changes that I would make. And I mean this wholeheartedly. I'm not trying to have a go at anyone here.
Trying to work out if this is going to be directed at
No, not at you at all. Mate, my background is property and finance and investing and all that type of stuff. I've seen some pretty insane money thrown around it just to have an event at the Star Casino and what that value and explaining that. Like we're talking about proposals from ANZ Bank to what they get as a principal partner for sponsoring an event, like just ridiculous stuff. But in my opinion, nowhere near as cool as racing, right? For sure. Yeah. But my point is this. You made an example of like someone who may not necessarily have like the social influence or like where's the value going to be. I think the contracts need to be written a little bit differently. I think there's tons of value there. I just think it needs to be approached a little bit differently. And I think there needs to be bigger pools that are tackled. Everyone keeps reaching for the same pool of money. Yep. Why? There are so many industries in this country. Look at everything else. They're tackling everyone else because they got money. That's the first objective. Ask Deloitte for some money. Number one. Number two, write in the objectives, in the value, in terms of what you are going to do. And I'm not saying it has to be this podcast, but you are here doing this podcast. that is a media objective.
Yeah, it's a 10-hour drive.
Yeah. So you're hitting your objectives, but there is like a list of things that you can actually do, and it is there. And I just think it's never been done before, or it's never showcased because no one's ever been there to actually manage it properly.
Look, I think that you're right. There are a lot of large corporations, multinationals and nationals don't want to invest in motorsport. It doesn't matter how much value you can add to them. They see more value in AFL, WAFL, WNRL or whatever. They see more value in those areas than they will ever see in motorsport. And there is like a hard and fast rule basically of not sponsoring motorsport. So motorsport itself needs to do a lot of work to restructure how it presents television and social media to its fans and how it engages fans. But then also you're right, companies don't know how to leverage the sponsorship dollars that they're spending, and the drivers don't know how to do it. So you've got two people that really don't know how to actually leverage the money that's being spent. So yeah, like in your case with Core, you do a great job in getting that message out there and working with Cole and getting interaction and the name of the business out there.
I'm not going to take that accolade. I'll let that Troy and she'll have that. They own the business, not me. I'm just the dumbass who does the marketing.
The dumbass that does the marketing is the one that is getting the marketing out there. If they hired another dumbass that didn't actually know what they're doing, then they probably wouldn't get the same results. So they're giving you a platform, but you're the one who's still going out and getting results.
Thank you.
But there's 99%. Yeah, we're both inflating our own egos here. Everyone else just needs to get the hell out. But yeah, most 99% of businesses don't have the infrastructure in place to do it, to properly leverage sponsorship. There are a heap of people out there sponsoring because they might be able to network or they're a business partner. So a lot of the times with trucking companies, they'll get sponsorship. If they're racing, like Mark Griffo, he'll get sponsorship of Vaudry or whoever. They'll get it back on kickbacks and sales from trucks that they buy or whatever it is. There's a lot of ways that way, but your average kid that doesn't have a network or a dad that has a business that does business with the sponsor, it's really difficult to try and get those sponsorship dollars in.
Yeah, I just don't take no for an answer. As you can tell, you're here.
Yeah. Guilt tripped me into being here.
No, I mean, I'm not trying to be a hard ass. I just mean like there's always going to be no's.
Yeah, which is fine. There will always be no's, and you can push until you get the yes.
Yeah.
I'm talking about if you get the yes.
Yeah.
And that's where a lot of the problem is. People get the yes, and then they don't know how to actually
manage it. Sounds like a unique business opportunity.
It is. There is a massive opportunity out there for people to do it.
Sounds like people need an agent.
Yep. Like a lot of the people that are involved in motorsport marketing and sponsorship don't have really a lot of a clue about modern social media and
that's fair. Yeah. Like
it's difficult. I suck at it. I'm not going to argue.
I think there's also like a level of like you can, people can, sorry, not you. People can just say like you hate it. Like there are people who just hate social media, so they don't want anything to do with it. And I fully respect that. Mate, there were people at the event that Tony and I were at who don't have social media. They're some of my favorite people on the planet because they've built fucking insane cars. Cars are like 500 grand. Like it's just ridiculous. But you wouldn't know because they don't believe in all that bullshit. They don't need to send it around. But you're like, this is the best person to talk to.
Yep. They're smart enough to go out and probably make their own business and build their own car and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, there's plenty of people that don't like social media. I don't particularly like it, but you have to do it.
Yeah.
If you want to go racing, you got to do it.
Yeah.
But yeah, like there's some cool stuff out there that's not on social media.
Agreed.
We've got one customer that has a massive collection of cars. And we're not allowed to photograph any of it for social media. I'm like, there's millions.
The opportunity is there, but no.
Yeah, just like, this would be so cool to share with people. Yeah, getting sidetracked. But yeah.
That's all good. That's all good. But I appreciate your sentiment and your input on that, though, because I do have strong opinions and feelings towards that, because I just feel like the street scene and the track scene, motorsport as a whole, like, I'm just like, it should be so much bigger.
Yeah. Yeah, it should be drastically different.
Gets me angry.
Yep. Yep. Same, frustrates me. I remember trying to work with one of the motorsport categories sort of 10 years ago, trying to push for them to tie up with Downshift and have a meet at one of the race meetings, have a car show and everything else. And like, look, you'll need to probably offer it for free entry or $5 entry or something. And they just were entirely against it. Like, you can get 300-400 cars to show up and have an event, and you get people there at the event, and they'll spend money at the cafeteria, but yeah, just no interest in it. They don't want to change the way they've been doing things.
Hate that.
Yeah.
It's time to change those old ways of thinking. That's how we got here in the first place.
Yeah.
Seriously, that's how we got here in the first place.
That's why Hyundai's been successful with it, with like Shannon Speed Series. They're going in and spending money.
They are. And you know what? I'm so fucking happy you raised that. I will agree wholeheartedly. And we have a huge Hyundai supporter who happens to be our audio man for this podcast.
It's got a very cool i30.
But I agree. Hyundai is pushing it.
Yep.
All the time, everywhere. Connect like the Enfest thing, but just also just racing in general on all levels of motorsport. Like, it's fucking amazing to see, because not many brands will actually go out there and do that. Sorry, not many brands? Genres. Brands.
No, brands is right, yeah. Or manufacturers.
Yeah, manufacturers who actually go, no, we're going to do this. Like, and we're actually going to put some money behind it. Like, no one.
Yeah. Particularly within Australia. Overseas, like Japan, you'll get Honda and Toyota, you'll get some involvement, but particularly in Australia. But Hyundai have just done it globally. And it's massive, and I think it's kind of forced Toyota to do it. Mm-hmm. So I think in Korea or Japan, Toyota and Hyundai have had a joint event like Enfest, but for both of them, GR Enfest or something. So I think it's forcing some of the manufacturers to kind of get involved with it. Outside of that, though, it's almost been exclusively your high-end retailers, your Ferrari, Porsche, Lamborghini. That's where they've always seen the value. Your Toyota, Kia, and other kind of generic brands don't generally see the value within Australia.
Yep. You know what fascinates me, though, is that Toyota continues to push the mark and still continue to make like even manual transmission cars, like the GR4 that they're planning on releasing, the Corolla that is coming out, like their championship over in America. And I know this because Alcon just decided to sponsor that championship series over in the States. So that's why that comes from memory right now. But even like Toyota jumping into supercars.
Yeah.
Dude.
Yeah, it's cool. Yeah.
It's fucking cool.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Yep. I think Toyota has started getting their act together. I think Hyundai's probably forced a little bit of that.
Yeah.
Because Toyota just had no interest in it for a while. They didn't really want to be involved other than I think in WRC really.
Mm.
So yeah, like it's great to see manufacturers get out there and do it. And the supercar thing is sick. Like having a Toyota V8 in it is really interesting.
You saw the concept, right? It looks so good.
Yeah.
It looks. Why are you shaking your head?
I love it. I can't wait for it to start.
I can't wait for it to win.
Yes.
It's with Walkinshaw, isn't it? Is it going to? It's been a while since they've won it.
That's fair. But all I'm saying is it would be a pretty amazing feat if they did actually do it, though. They pulled it off.
First year champions.
Everyone had mixed opinions. There'd be so many keyboard warriors out in the chat.
Oh, yeah. Oh. What is it? Supercars Inbred or something. There's a Facebook page just solely related to things that supercar fans have posted on either drivers or manufacturers or teams pages. It's hilarious.
Wait, what's this? I'm missing this. What?
Oh, it's hilarious. It's just full bogan stuff where people are just the most illiterate crap that you can post, just abusing people, coming up with wild conspiracy theories. It's hilarious. Just the crap they come up. I think it's Supercars Inbred or something like that. INBRED or BREAD. I can't recall how they spell it.
I've got to follow this.
Yeah, it's a great page.
But for the amount of shit that actually is out there in the internet and just all the keyboard warriors out there, there is some quality gold within Facebook groups and track racing groups.
There's so much of it. There is just so much crap on the internet.
Oh, mate.
Particularly like when anything that's a team sport, you just get these diehards that just they come up with the most outlandish shit if their team or driver doesn't perform.
Yeah.
Like the internet is just a gold mine of just uneducated opinions.
Yeah.
And it's great when someone goes through and then collates all of that.
Is there ever been a time, this is a great question, not that it's been instigated by you, but you've just overcome it or someone's spoken to you about it or whatever, where you've come across like an instance of like Facebook keyboard warriors, whatever, talking about you or talking about a race that you're involved in, whatever, and you're just looking at it, just laughing your ass off, just going like, what is going on right now?
Yeah, a little bit. Not for a little while.
Yeah.
Had a few things. Like when I crashed the E30, I kind of heard all sorts of crap, and it was like, just none of it was accurate. We literally just had we had a steering rack failure. It was like we had the steering rack failed around the back of the track at Lakeside. It was just one of those shitty situations where, okay, if I had been driving more, I might have been able to pick it up earlier, like a bit more practice. But it was just one of those things. It was an accident. I copped all kinds of crap over that. I was basically nowhere near as talented as I thought I was. That was the usual stuff. Even with the fastback, like there was the drama with that. Like I've heard all kinds of stories and none of it's even close to kind of being accurate.
Not a clue whatsoever.
Oh, there was just complete and utter crap with that. And that was a shitty part to this year.
Yeah.
Like hearing those things kind of come back, like that's not even close to reality.
Yeah.
That was a quick car. Like 2023, that was, if we didn't have the engine issues that we had in 2023, we probably would have been a 137 car that we built in 4 months. Like when it was with Hyundai, it did I think a 148 or something like that. So in about 4 months, we kind of took 10 seconds off it.
I was about to say, what the fuck?
What was done to it?
Before, like, or when we took it over?
When you took it over?
Coilovers, like we did coilovers, tyres, ECU tune, intake and exhaust. That was about it. Most of it was just chassis setup.
That's not much at all. I mean, it is, but like it's
no. So like, IFX did the turbo setup. So he did put a bigger turbo on it, and we put the Motec on it, and then there were issues surrounding that. I won't get into that. But we ended up having to put the factory engine back in after the original one grenaded. It wasn't anything IFX did. But yeah, when we competed at World Time Attack, it was a factory car with an intake exhaust and a tune on it. That was basically it. It had coilovers, it had a cage, it had aero, and the brake kit. Like there really wasn't a hell of a lot done to it.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
That just goes to show, I mean, yeah, out of the box or whatever. But like that does
stock style according to Track Races Australia.
Yeah.
It had the TCR engine in it, but the TCR engine is supposedly just a stock engine with head studs, head gasket, and a windage tray, so you don't get oil surge.
That's it. That's all that's changed.
Yeah, that's all that's changed. It's a stock engine.
What?
Yeah. TCR engines are literally a bone stock i30N engine.
Just with different head studs.
Head studs, head gasket, because I think the boost or whatever they were running on the turbos was just lifting the heads. They're having head gasket issues.
Wow.
Yeah.
Pretty impressive.
Yeah.
That's pretty impressive.
Yeah.
I understand why people buy them. I get it.
Teaches people perfect your craft, perfect your driving skills.
Oh, the cars are good. The engines are really good. So yeah, Hyundai did actually build a good product behind the marketing. It's not just, don't just drive it because of that. It's genuinely quick, and I feel a little bit sad for Hyundai because it's gained almost everyone who's buying them. There's a heap of guys now that are in motorsport that have bought them. Like I know a heap of guys that have raced TA2 and various other categories that have gone out and bought their own Hyundais as a street car or an occasional sort of weekend fun car. But the majority of the owners have never been involved in cars before. So they're getting all of these people through that haven't really owned them. That's their first time modifying a car, and they're going out to the track and not setting super amazing times compared to guys in Yaris's and whatever else. And it's like, or Civics and all that kind of jazz. It's not that the car's actually that much slower. It's great. It's just the owner base that's kind of buying them. And that's why, like, when we were doing the fastback, I was so pumped because that car was so close to stock drive. It was stock driveline wise. It had the factory diff in it. It was stock.
I remember when I saw you and you were running through and you were like, no, it's actually pretty much.
Yeah, it was really hard to talk about it. It had a roll cage in it. It had some race seats in the aero. Yeah. So it was kind of like, it looks really cool. It looks like there's a lot into it. And there was a lot of work that went into it.
Yeah.
And some of that got undone. But yeah, like the Hyundai just built a really good car. The chassis is good.
I was about to say, like, speaking of chassis, I got two questions here actually. What, like, that series of car, why not lean into like a Toyota? Like those three cylinder Toyotas are fucking off their tits. Like, that's incredible. But then also like a Golf, or then leaning into like any of those cars. Do you like any of those cars? Or
I like the new Mark 8 Golf.
Yeah.
I think after the Mark 5 or so, they were not fun to drive. You had to do a lot of work to get them to sort of rotate and the feel back into them. And same with the Yaris. I don't like driving stock Yaris's. I think they're absolutely terrible. I think Toyota took an amazing concept and then screwed it.
yeah,
it's like the seating position and everything else. Like, it's a great chassis and it's a great base, but you're spending 15, 20 grand to get it back to where it kind of should be.
Yeah.
So yeah, like, it was just Hyundai it's a new market. Like, a lot of the owners that were in it, as I said before, were fresh into the scene. They didn't have the misconceptions and preconceptions that a lot of the other scenes kind of had. Like, I had a VW, and the VW scene in 2010 to 2015 is kind of going through what now Hyundai is going through with workshop battles and egos kind of getting. And they've kind of, I think, got past a little bit of that.
Yeah.
So those scenes are great. It's just community's growing. But yes, I would drive a new Mark 8. I would drive a Yaris, just not a stock one. But yeah, I'll drive anything. But I like the Hyundai community for the most part.
I got to say, I got a chance to drive the Mark 8 GTI?
Yeah.
I even liked that.
Yep.
I thought it was dope. Inside and out, it was actually pretty nice.
Yeah, well, they're a great car. And like Reese McIntosh is the stuff that he does. His Audi S1 is awesome. That's such a fun car to look at, and the way he drives it. Like, they're obviously capable, but it's a saturated market. Like, everyone's done what you can to a VAG chassis. But the Hyundai stuff is still kind of unique. Like, people are still only just developing port injection. Like, there's just more room to do new stuff on it that's been done on every other chassis.
Yeah.
So
it really is like a new foundation for that. And I'm pretty excited to see what happens over the next few years in all forms of racing. Like, it's not just circuit, like all of it. Like, I think it'd actually be pretty cool, because I think the statement that was made at World Time Attack this year is pretty enforcing, to say the least. It was pretty impressive. I'd love to know what next year is going to look like, just considering.
As far as the event, or
just the event, and just what Hyundai will push next year.
Yeah. Look, they've got some cool stuff coming. I mean, the N74 is going into production. I think all of those allocations are kind of accounted for, but the guys that are involved with it just love motorsport.
Yep.
Like Jeff Fear, who runs it, he had a long history, ran Triple S imports, and has a long history with GDRs and importing stuff from Japan. And like, everyone who's around, and even getting Josh Buchan involved, everyone has a motorsport or a modified car background, so they all love it. So even like Guido Schenken, his dad Tim Schenken was involved in Formula One, so Guido basically runs Hyundai Australia.
Yep.
Just they're all a motorsport background, so yeah, there should be some cool stuff coming.
Yeah. 100%.
I'm pretty sure you'll probably see Misha back next year as well. That wouldn't surprise me.
That doesn't surprise me. I can see. I sense a lot of frustration, just from Misha, because I feel like Misha would always just want to try, obviously, put his best foot forward. But there's always like little adjustments, right? Yeah. Little things that we've got to do to make it a little bit better, and you can tell just like through the driving, like every time the car was dancing or like moving around a little bit, it's not allowing you to put your best foot forward.
Yeah, look, they definitely had issues.
Yeah.
So they had a custom set of shocks in there, and it didn't have enough compression spring rate in it, realistically. So, and that would then just screw up the torque vectoring. So when a car is so reliant on the electronics, if things aren't kind of where or how they should be, kind of goes haywire. But like, it still did a 141. It was on a 265 wide tire. Like, they'll come back next year. I know I'm pretty sure the rules are being changed so they can go to a 295.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure
right.
that is probably going to happen.
Okay.
For big heavy all-wheel drive cars, because like in Open and Pro, the all-wheel drive cars over a certain weight can run a 295. In Club Sprint, they're stuck on a 265.
Yep.
But yeah, it wouldn't surprise me if there's a change in regs there to level it up.
Is there any other rule changes that you potentially know about?
There's stuff coming. I don't know.
Yeah. Okay.
I don't know how 100% it is, but like Baker's already come out and said that there's a tuner class coming. I think everyone sort of knows about that. I don't think there'll be any drastic changes in Club Sprint. I think a lot of it's just going to be making the rules clearer.
Yeah.
Because there's just a lot of grey area with it. I think the rules themselves are pretty good. I think Club Sprint probably went too far with the size of front aero that was allowed. But well, it makes the cars cool. But I think as a competitor, it kind of, if you limit the size of the front down like aero, you kind of limit your rear
absolutely,
because
otherwise you like tipping.
Yep, exactly. So I think they made a mistake with the interpretation of that, but otherwise the rules are pretty good. The other one I think is allowing sequentials in Club Sprint was a mistake, because you get to a power level where you start blowing up manual gearboxes, you bring in allowing sequentials, you kind of get rid of that. And it takes away a bit of the driver ability as well. When you got a sequential or a paddle shift, you can just bang gears. You don't have to worry about heel towing and everything else. So it's a little bit, So it kind of, it's good for the spectacle, but it took Club Sprint away from like Daniel Meredith when he won a couple of years in a row. That was not a basic Honda Civic, but it was, or compared to what's out there nowadays, that was a pretty basic car.
Yep.
And that was something that anyone that had sort of brains and some driver ability could probably get behind and be competitive with. And I think that's gone in Club Sprint. You're not building a car in Club Sprint for under probably 250 if you're doing it yourself, to 350 grand.
Yep.
If you're paying a workshop to do it, that's going to be anywhere near the podium.
Yeah, right.
So I think everything's gone too far for Baker to kind of bring it back, but it's good for the spectacle.
Yep. Yep, so, fair.
Yeah.
Do you get enjoyment out of speaking to people like Misha? Like when you're all hanging out and you're just chilling. I know you got a lot on your plate. You've got a race to do.
Misha had lots on his plate. My weekend was easy compared to his.
Yeah, because he had this bugger bloody trying to talk to him the entire time.
That was a good chat.
I think everyone was trying to talk to him. Not so much Misha. He was a really nice guy, but I prefer talking to probably some of the other guys. Like I love having a chat to Josh. He's so knowledgeable when it comes to driving. So like discussing, there's a different level. It's kind of like chess where you compare a 2200 grandmaster to someone who's 1800 and compared to someone who's 1000, like the gap between the 1800 and 2200 is bigger. Like Misha's a great driver, but that gap up to Buchan and those other professional level drivers is massive. And there's just tiny small things that you can talk about. And it's the same with engineering, like talking to Chris from Shockworks or talking to any of the other chassis engineers or guys that just know what they're doing, like Cole.
Yep.
Like Cole is one of those guys that I would love to chat to and talk cars. They're kind of the people that I I enjoy talking to.
Truly humble and amazing human. And again, I told you this off air, man. Like the things that he was describing to me about the course or whatever, just I'm such a novice.
You start talking to those guys and you're like, oh yeah, I really know nothing.
Yeah, no, but seriously, I really know nothing, because the way he was describing how he would enter a corner on what he's actually looking at based on predictions / what's the reality and how and where he's at any point in time, it is truly like as if there is just some insane mathematical equation going on in his head, and I just went, wow.
Yeah, you're taking, the more you do it, the more data you can take in.
Yeah.
And the more data you can assess. So when you're just trying to drive the car and stay on the track, you're not taking a lot in, you're just trying to stay alive.
Yeah, true.
When you're at the ability at like his level, you're starting to just analyze, are there patches on the road? Like, is there things that I can try? Has there been an oil down? Whatever. Even just looking at the wind.
Yeah.
You're coming into turn one, like really tiny things that you start analyzing before you enter a corner.
Yep.
And that's things that most normal people don't kind of get the opportunity to think about.
I think there's something to be said that probably most people don't think about. And I reference this very similarly to how hockey players hate figure skaters.
I think I know where this conversation's going.
Yeah.
Yep.
They don't hate, but they just really like a hockey player can't stand how much a figure skater picks the ice out of the floor and kind of ruins the surface to play.
Yeah.
And there's something to be said about these dirty drifters. I love the drifters.
Yeah.
But I what are your thoughts on such a mass stage as well, something like World Time Attack, where you've got not only drifters, but just an insane show going on? What was it, the Hot Wheels show or whatever it was this year?
The Hot Wheels shows, yeah.
You're doing that on the exact same course as the guys who are trying to set the fastest lap they possibly can. I get it. Like, it's
part of the show. You kind of have to deal with it, and everyone, it's not ideal for lap times, but everyone else is in the same boat. They've all got to deal with debris and everything else being down on the track. Dropping oil and stuff like that is probably more of an issue, which happens in even the time attack categories.
Yep.
It sucks. Like you're trying to chase a lap time. Yep, you're probably losing a few tenths here and there. But it's part of the show. You just have to deal with it. I love drifting. I haven't done it. Like, I'm not going to pretend that I know anything about it, but I love watching it. So, yeah, from a lap time side, get rid of it. From a show side, I think it's great.
It seems to be everywhere, and I do find it fascinating. Did you actually get to watch the drifting after you'd done racing? Did you actually get a moment to chill out?
No, not really.
No.
Most of the time, is kind of just talking to people. I was doing coaching with a couple other drivers, so it was going down and seeing them and going through their data, and there wasn't a lot of time to kind of assess and take a rest and go and do anything. Usually I go through for a walk through the show and show, and I didn't even do that this year. So
I didn't either. You did. I didn't. I didn't leave the freaking pits. I didn't leave the garage.
Just too busy.
I was seriously
too
though.
Popular.
No, I've got to talk to you. I've got to
just wait in line.
I've got to but like I guess I was just so preoccupied with doing the tent and then also trying to get all the right shots, managing 2 camera people at any one time around the track.
Yeah, way more on than I probably did.
Oh, well, I've got footage of you. It hasn't come to light yet, but it's pretty freaking amazing. It's freaking like 4K slow-mo shots. Like, it's...
That's cool.
Yeah.
The wheels are still on the cup?
Yeah. But actually, I got pretty much the whole team. Yeah, I got like all of racer industry. I got Ellie. I got everyone.
Yeah. Scott.
Scott drove the grey. The grey. Yeah. Got it. Yep.
Cool.
Everything.
He'll love that.
From the pits into the track.
It
was great. Yeah, it was awesome. But yeah, managing all that stuff, like I just don't really have time.
Oh, you got your priorities.
This guy was Mr.
Into
Culture.
the show inside section.
Well, of course, he's the bags guy.
He's on it.
He's going to go and deal with the hard parkers.
Those are your people.
My people. But no, it's interesting seeing how you've got all like the intense track people like fanging it corner by corner, and then you've just got the cars built for that show. You've got the best of both in the same place. No, three, and then you've got the people that put on a show of the drifting, and then
and the roll racing, and like there's
everything.
4 or 5 different disciplines there. Like, the event is ridiculous.
it's the best of everything there.
Yeah, it really is. Yeah, I wish there was a bit more of. I would love if he put on a music festival or something for the evenings.
It's so weird you said that. That's one of the things I sent as like feedback.
Yeah. I've been trying to get him to do it like some of the European festivals, but I can imagine it's so hard, like our drinking culture here and not being allowed.
Especially at that place.
Yeah. So I can understand why it doesn't happen and it sucks. But God, it makes me want to go and travel to Europe and check out some of those events.
Honestly, do you know? You must know Forza Horizon. Yeah, dude. That level of just that in reality. Oh man, I'd love to make that a thing. I'd love to go.
It's like Gutbill or however it's pronounced. I've probably completely screwed that up. So you gotta go and Google it. It's Gatebil.
Yeah. That, but the amount of ideas to me, remember like even race wars from like Fast and Furious, I'd love to do. It's so easy to pull that off in Australia. It's red desert if you drive like 5 hours west of Sydney, probably the same for freaking the Gold Coast and Brisbane. Like there's nothing out there.
But I mean, Hawkins kind of does it with Cootamundra.
I guess.
But, there's not much of a festival around it. It's just the big horsepower cars. It's the racing. It's the festival that we miss.
Yeah, I don't know.
I think that's a massive thing that needs to change within Australia. I think it's why we don't have the sponsorship and marketing. There is really nothing. It's really expensive to go to the racetrack, and there is not a lot on out there.
Yep.
So you don't get kids coming through. You don't get the teenagers. You don't get families.
Yeah.
It's expensive, and there's not a lot on. There's other stuff they can go and do.
It's just so crazy, man. Like I got family in America, and honestly, everywhere from the East Coast to the West Coast, and they tell me stories all the time about how they could drive like inside like the inner California state, right? From I don't know, Newport Beach, where the fuck they live. So they go inside like as if you're driving to Las Vegas or whatever. And if you find like a good flat patch of dirt or whatever, you can just draw up your own figure 8 course. Guess what? You got your own little rally cart, and no one bats an eye. They have like full lockdown street parties in LA, and they just have massive car burnout festivals. They just lock a street down and just do it. And you just go, that would just never fly here.
No, no matter how much Australians are like, oh, we're a convict state, we hate laws, we're really relaxed, we follow everything. Like we are so indoctrinated in following everything to the T.
It gets me angry because I have so many YouTube ideas to do shit like that. And even if I did it on my own private land, someone is still going to come after me.
Yeah.
That hurts. I'd build my own race course if I could, but I worked out how much it takes.
It's drastically cheaper hiring a racetrack, and that's not exactly cheap. Morgan Park's not too bad.
True, but
it's a long drive.
It is a long drive.
It's about 10 hours.
It is a long drive, but yeah, I don't know. You are right though. If there was more things like that and more things that you could get excited about, there'd be way more. It'd be filled with rightful opportunity of people just throwing cash at it, left, right, and center.
Yeah. I think there's a massive opportunity there. It's just having someone take the gamble on doing it.
He's looking at us.
More looking at Baker. I think he's in the position to do it, but there's so much on his plate as he does already. Like I can understand him not doing it, but God, it would be cool.
Yeah, it would be. Yeah. I feel like the amount of ideas that must run through Ian's head around the world, let alone for Australia, like fuck, it must fuck. I mean, he's a cool dude, but yeah.
He's had a cool life.
Yeah, he's had a pretty cool life.
Yeah, it's I don't know. seeing some festival events here would be awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool.
I wonder if have I missed anything? I'm wondering if I've missed anything about your Hyundai thing.
I think you got most stuff.
There's something that I wanted to ask you, but I can't.
That's Semi Pro. Okay, you got it.
Rivalries.
Oh, rivalries. Yeah, I saw that question.
Specifically for you, let alone, like, obviously there's car rivalries.
Yeah.
Obviously. Mm-hmm. But what is there actually beef out there where, and it could just be good sportsmanship. I just mean, like, fuck this guy. Why is he like half a second every single time in front of me out of any point in your career?
Yeah. It was less. He wasn't actually faster than me. It was slower. But we just kept having altercations.
Yeah.
I think it was a little bit of frustration on his end. I got punted a couple of times, and then because he was the poster child of the category, he got everything went in his favor. I'm like, he literally punted me off the track at Wakefield.
Oh, dude.
And I got sent to the back of the field for the next race. I'm like, how was that unnecessary? So yeah, had some rivalries like that with Ben Grice as well when we were racing together. There was always, I learned heaps off him. I just would analyze what they were doing, and yeah, there's definitely rivalries. Even these days, there's rivalries. Some of them are good, some of them are bad. Like some of them is more a hatred than a friendly rivalry. A lot of it's friendly rivalry. Like we've got chat groups with a lot of the Queensland Time Attack guys, and we all have a laugh and some banter, and they're good rivalries. And then there's the bad rivalries. You know, if you're in this industry and you're not pissing people off, like there is so much bad information out there, and people that really don't know what they're doing. If you're not pissing them off, you're probably one of the idiots. So you're going to piss people off. It's just the industry for it. I think it's life in general.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Fair enough. If there's something that you could change, or maybe you love it as it is, I don't know. What's something that you would just love people to understand or just know, or something that you want to change that's either in like the street scene, the car scene, or just even in the track scene, like something that you just feel it just needs like a bit of an update?
I think it's just an education thing.
Yeah.
And that's with the semi-pro stuff. That's what I'm trying to actively try and do, is to produce sort of educational material so people have more of a clue. Because there are a lot of people within the scene that have a certain level of recognition, and some of them are great guys, some of them aren't. And there's just misinformation out there, and people will just latch onto it because that person has some sort of credibility, whether it's earned or not. So I think that's probably one of the things where people are just a bit more skeptical about what people are feeding them for information. Even when I say something, like I want people to go and double check, and if I'm wrong, correct me on it. So yeah, that's probably the one thing, just not taking everything for granted when people tell you something. Yeah,
that's fair. When it comes to, just because you touched on it just now with semi-pro, could you explain to people a little bit more about what that truly is?
There's been a little bit of an evolution. So we do sell parts, but the eventual goal is I would love to do something along the lines of what Race Services does and FAT International, but with an educational portion of it as well, something a little bit more relaxed than what HP Academy is. Andre does an awesome job with that, but it's a bit bland for 99% of the population. It's great for people like me who want to go through and learn something new. It's great for people that are technically minded. It's not great for people that don't really want to know the ins and outs of tuning an ECU and how dampers exactly work and calculating spring frequencies and whatever else, but just something that gives people a basic understanding of the fundamentals of a car, how dampers work, how ECU tuning works, how AFRs work, all that kind of stuff. Just real basic things. So when people tell you something, you can kind of tell if they're talking shit or not.
And it's really important to you, I'm guessing, to push that education piece.
It's where I want it to go to. The problem is that it's not really fundable straight off the bat. So that's why we're doing the parts stuff and merchandise. It's very difficult to produce a course. I want it to be free, so it's accessible to people. So the only way to do that is to build the content and then get people coming to it and then get sponsorship from suppliers. So it's a long-term goal. But yes, that is what I would really like to push people towards. Just so they have a basic understanding, even if they're going to get new tires or get their car serviced by someone, just fundamentals and make it fun. Like the race service stuff is awesome.
It is,
like the
dude.
stuff that they do. So if there's a way that we can combine that level of entertainment and quality with, and also have some educational stuff in there, I'd love that.
Yeah, man. Is there like room to collab and do that, or is it
Hell
much?
yeah.
Is it much like a?
I've not got an ego on that. Like
I just don't know if you want to be the master and commander and the teacher that's on screen and trying to depict all this, or if it's room to make like hectic YouTube videos.
No, there's room to make hectic YouTube videos. Like
So I'll see you down here more often than 10
yeah,
hours.
whenever you tell me I've only got this day to film, you have to be here. Can't work around my schedule.
Oh God.
Yeah, no, like I would love to work with other people, because the more people get involved, the easier it kind of is. I can't produce it all. I'm not a videographer. I'm not.
I can tell you right now, it's fucking hard.
I know. I've tried. we know like the stories that we spoke about off the podcast. Like I've been through videographers trying to get someone. When you're trying to do it on a budget, it's tough.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I would love to work with people. It's I think something that's an important message to kind of push within the community.
Yep.
I think there's a niche there as well.
Yep. Have you met the guys from High Powered
From
New
HP
Zealand?
Academy?
Yeah.
Yeah, I did an interview with them and completely ballsed it up. So I can't remember. Tony or... Actually, no, it was you with Cole maybe, where you got really nervous and messed some of it up.
Me personally with Cole. Oh, the moment I told you where I realised I was speaking to Cole Powson and the world hit me within 5 seconds. You could see it on screen.
Yeah. I did that and made a complete mess. I screwed up coefficient of friction. It was supposed to be about brakes, and I just screwed up the whole entire thing. And then halfway through it, Tanuki crashed. So I was like, I got distracted by that. It was just a complete and utter disaster.
No one really blames you for that, mate. You've had a pretty full-on few days.
I was wrecked. I'm like, Jared tried organising it as well. So I was like, I don't want to do this. I'm not in the headspace to do it. It's like, no, I'll be fine. I'm like, okay, whatever.
They're a bunch of cool dudes.
Oh, they're awesome. Like, they were so great about it. I knew I was ballsing that whole interview up. Like, there was very little of worth in it. But they were great the whole time. I was like, fuck, I completely balls this chance up. They're going to think I'm dickheads, but they've been great about it.
I think they know. They know, man. Like you have so much on your plate.
Days,
I can't even imagine.
Yeah, I looked exhausted and I was an emotional mess trying to get the car ready.
How do you actually decompress after doing something like that? Because you've come down, you've got all the lead up to it, the actual day of it. It still doesn't stop, as you said, even at night time. It's 10 p.m. It's day 2. You're still not done. And you've still got to get home. You still do you just turn to mush?
So I have a very, very, very unhealthy and work-life balance, I suppose, is probably the way, work-life motorsport balance. I basically work until I crash for 2 days and then start working again. So I'll go months with working 7 days a week, 10, 12, 14, 16-hour days, and not getting anywhere near enough sleep, exercise, diet, whatever, and then burn myself out and then go again because I'm an idiot. So do not recommend that. So yeah, that's basically how I do it. So after World Time Attack, I didn't stop. So this year I drove back from World Time Attack Sunday morning, got back into Brisbane, had to go and do a job on the north side of Brisbane that afternoon, went and did that, drove back home, and then had to do a 1,300 kilometre round trip to a town in the middle of nowhere to lock a house up the very next morning. So I think I was up at 3 or 4 a.m. So I haven't stopped since then.
Wow.
Yeah. So no, not a healthy work-life balance.
Yeah, right. Okay. So
I'm a terrible, terrible ambassador for mental health and everything else. So.
but also really good ambassador for hustling.
Yeah,
Motorsport in the blood.
yeah, motorsport in the blood. Probably if I took better care of my, something I've come to the realization, if I started probably taking better care of my mental health and understanding it a bit better earlier on, I probably would be in a better position now.
That's fair. How about when we come up to Queensland then? We just we do one media thing and then we just chill the fuck out all day.
No, I can't do it. I've got to do something. No, I will try and chill out, but it's got to be something that's productive towards something.
Yeah, okay.
That's kind of it. So my chill out is going to the gym or whatever else. And it's hard to imagine right now, but that's one of the things where I was talking about with mental health. I was really fit when I was 18, 19, 20 years old. And then I started doing a job where I sit in a desk and in a car all day, and I would go back and I would train. I just kept re-injuring myself. And I've now gotten to the point where my ego has been destroyed enough where I'm going through and just spending time doing really basic rehab and slowly getting better and improving. So a big part of it was cutting the ego out. So but yeah, I like doing things. I like going out, doing something productive. It's just who I kind of am as a person.
I was going to say, is there something that maybe the audience doesn't know about you? Like in terms of an outlet, like you said, going to the gym. So you want to keep busy, but is there a guilty pleasure or an outlet that you just love that no one would know?
It kind of feels like race cars. That's yeah. So my job is long hours, so I'll work 5, 6. I'll start 5, 6 in the morning and work through until 7, 8 o'clock at night, whatever. So my downtime is working on cars. Yep. Which is terrible. It's not a healthy way of doing it, but it's what I enjoy. I don't recommend it for people.
Yeah, for sure.
So yeah.
I understand what you're saying.
I'm a simple man, stupid simple man.
I thought you were about to come out and say I abseil every now and then. I'm like, really?
No, don't abseil. Don't. I enjoy going out, meeting people, going to dinner, that kind of usual stuff. But I'm so focused on the motorsport side of things that it just absorbs pretty much most of my time.
Well, man, if anything, it truly speaks a lot of value in terms of who you are as a person. And I think that really shows, not only in your mannerisms, but also just generally how you conduct life. I think it's really admirable. I really do. Yeah, and I mean every word that I say of that, including the ones that I said at the very beginning, where I said, you know how to drive seriously, but at the same time, you know when it's right to have a laugh and take the piss.
You have to. If you're serious the whole time, you're just gonna if you can't have a laugh at yourself, you can't have a laugh with your friends, you're going to burn yourself out. You've got to be able to take the piss sometimes. Motorsport's supposed to be fun.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
That was years ago. I asked the guys that started the Keep Drifting Fun tag if I could use a derivative of it. That's where Keep Motorsport Fun came from.
Yeah.
It's I'll be very serious, very analytical in the car or whatever, but outside it's supposed to be fun.
It is.
I enjoy the challenge. People might be like, why the fuck do you do this? I enjoy that challenge. For me, that is fun.
Yep.
And I don't judge anyone else. They should just have fun, do what they enjoy.
Yep. Yep. I completely agree with that. I think Tony and I are even going to enter a little exhibition next year. It's just a cheap little enduro race, but its whole foundation is about just having fun.
It's awesome. A couple of mates have done it recently. It's so much fun. I went and got an XL, so I go back and again checking the ego rather than trying to chase dreams of V8 supercar fame or whatever. Was just go back and drive again and enjoy it. It's something that's cheap and fun.
It is cheap and fun.
Yeah.
And I think there's something to be said. And I guess I've only just realised this now because you were talking about how, I guess, out of the box, these Hyundais are so fun. Only a little tune, an intake, and a few other bits and bobs here and there. And yeah, it improves it even further. But there's also something to be said about also just doing that exact same method of the madness to just any car. You don't need to have the best. You don't need to go all the way out. You don't need a fuel cell. You don't.
There was a guy at Morgan Park that had an old Hilux. There is some Matt Campbell is a perfect example. So I don't know if you know him.
I don't.
He's the factory Porsche driver. I think he's doing LMDH or something now. One of the best drivers in the world for as a Porsche factory driver. His car, we used to work together with Stokel. His car that he learned him was a 120Y. He would go out to Morgan Park and just cut laps in a Datsun 120Y. It would roll all over the place. It was a complete and utter bucket, and that's what he learned in. And he's genuinely one of the best drivers in the world.
Just having fun.
Yeah. Just having fun, going out and driving.
Loading with what you have.
It's what he had.
Fuck, I'd love to get you.
Another advertisement for shit cars. And when I say he's one of the best in the world, I generally, like, in terms of sports car racing, he's not far off the Max Verstappen kind of deal. Came from outback Queensland.
That's a statement.
Yeah. He's an incredible driver.
Yeah. All right. I believe you. I'm hearing what you're saying. We need to get you out here just on like a fun just exhibition night like tonight, like Tuesday nights at Sydney Motorsport Park. Man, it's so much fun. Track days are cool too, but you need to come out because probably about once a month, Tony and I will head out and we'll see this guy. He's got heaps of cool cars.
Yeah, he's got toys after toys.
He comes out in a Toyota Hiace and tracks this thing. He's wearing the full kit. He's got the helmet on. He's got everything. He fucking tracks. It's stock as shit. He just tracks this Toyota Hiace van all the way around the GP circuit. Just fucking loves it.
That's hilarious.
And consistently too. And Tony and I are looking at this guy just going,
I spoke to him once, and his reason was he couldn't resist watching his mates on the track, so he just went to enter in his daily car that he rocked up in.
That's fair. Go for it.
It's like, I'm not trying to go faster at that. I just want to be out on the track.
just loves it.
Go for it.
Loving it.
It doesn't matter. Like, there's people that rock
Just
up
have
in
fun.
absolute buckets. Just go out and drive it.
Yeah.
As long as you're not going to be screwed if it breaks down or whatever. Like, literally just buy a $3,000-$4,000 car that's safe. Like, do the pads, do fluids, and go out and drive it.
Yep.
You don't need special tyres on it. You just need to drive within your limits and learn.
That's right. Just Project Mu pads, right?
Definitely projecting pads. And Bremtech rotors.
Yeah.
That was too much of an easy plug, man. I'm sorry.
That's why you're the professional at the marketing stuff.
I thought that was automatically going to come out of your mouth just then. I was like, oh, that's an easy plug.
This one, I'm not a great sponsored athlete.
Not
much of an athlete mostly. But
speaking of brands, though, you've obviously got some pretty cool backing.
Yes.
I dare I say that doesn't just come to anyone. Like you've got to put the time in. You've got to put the work in, and you got to have an aptitude about you to stay consistent as well and race the things you do. How did this even become a thing for you? How did the
sponsorship side of it?
Yeah, how did those relationships even start?
A long time.
Yeah.
So apparently, no matter how abrasive my personality is, a few people like me. So the deal with Racer Industries and Project Mu came through Ben Nothling. I was a customer of theirs when he was working at Brakes Direct and Forza. And even before then, we were friends for ages, and it was just an opportunity that came up, and that was it. Same with Shockworks was basically bought a couple of kits off Chris, and we just started working together and talking, and friendship kind of grew. And then they've just supported me since. And same with most of it. It's a lot of the people involved just want to be involved in motorsport somehow, or if they're involved in motorsport already, like Project Mu and Racer Industries, they want to know that you have some knowledge and ability.
Yep.
And that you can talk to their customers and present their brand.
Yep.
So you can not be a complete and utter idiot, and you can have some ability to explain their product to people and put it to good use.
Yep, for sure. Project Mu pads are pretty cool.
I love them.
My personal experience with this, so I'm not talking out of my ass.
Could be anyway.
I have used them. But man, like we even were putting Project Mu pads on the track 86, 86 car. And I thought they were freaking awesome. They gripped like anything else. Like and comparatively, I mean this with due respect, I'm not hating on the other brand, but like in regards to like Hawk, which in my opinion is like it like eats away at the rotor.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've ever had that news. I don't know how many different pads you've
some
been through.
pads will. I've tried a lot.
Yeah.
I've tried a lot
imagine.
of different stuff. Because like when we were working with Stoker, you'd drive a whole heap of customer cars and everything else. So you'd drive anything and everything, and you kind of get used to it. I've always been really honest with stuff. So Project Mu pads will not suit everyone. I think they're a really good basis to start with. That pad compound might not suit your braking style.
Yeah.
It might not suit your car. It might not suit the pad or rotors that are available to you. So there is no one pad that suits all. But yeah, no, the Project Mus are just generally reliable. They perform well. I like their initial bite and release and how they build friction through the initial heat up stage. So that they've always worked for me. So I know I can go to people and go, yep, this pad works for me. They've got a good selection of street track and proper motorsport pads that are available for people. So I know I can always have a couple of options available for people that I can recommend to them.
Yep.
I think some of my value as being sponsored is building trust with their customers and my own. If I don't think Project Mu have a pad that will suit, I'm not going to try and force one of our customers onto it. I think that's one of the worst things that you can do. Because if they don't like it or it doesn't suit their application, they're just going to think you're an idiot and they're going to think the product sucks. So
yeah, fair.
Yeah, there's no, with everything, suspension, brakes, tires, everything, there is no one shoe that fits all.
Yeah. And I would agree with that on many different parts.
Yeah.
Wheels, tires, like everything.
Yeah, correct.
I've expressed that actually quite openly when it comes to tires. I think you should never put REO 3s, Bridgestone Potenzas.
Yeah.
I think you should ever put them on a Commodore.
That's fair.
I think you have too much of a boat and you have too much weight and they do not slip. And if you ever drive that in the rain, God help you.
Yeah.
Like, you are asking for trouble.
Yeah, that's fair.
That's just my experience.
Lots of people love them. And
I bet
I think they were a great tyre 15 years ago or whenever they came out, but I think there's better now.
Yeah.
But people still sack ride them because they're like, oh yeah, I've used them for the last 15 years and they've been great and haven't tried anything else.
But I could also be very wrong in saying it might be the perfect car for, I don't know, a Subaru WRX 010 model. Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I just don't think it's good for that car.
Yep. Yeah, that's...
How do you go through, this is a good question because you're a brake master as well. How do you go through troubleshooting like brake pads or even like you've got your own rotors, right? So how do you, it's of no doubt compatible with a few things, but how the hell do you even work that out?
It's like what Andrew was saying before, like there's no one thing that suits any customer. Sometimes it may come down to the way he describes his specific situation might even be different to the way he drives the vehicle.
That is really common. That people have very little
understanding,
introspection of how they drive and understanding of how they drive.
Correct, yep. And even like just noise that the vehicle makes, like they may say, I hear a noise here, but it's actually not from where they think it's coming from. Like they may say it's front left, passenger side, but it's underneath the wheel or it's underneath the strut tower instead of where they say like sometimes with those customers that don't know too in depth or have an exact understanding, it does come down to time and just trying different things. As if you don't know your stuff 100%, it may take a bit more time. And at the end of the day, if you get there.
And there are people that even do know their stuff. Like they might be a really great driver, but they've got no mechanical sympathy.
Correct.
Like a big one for killing brakes is just incorrect thermal buildup. Like if you thermal shock the rotor or the pad, you can have failures. You can have issues with them laying, because on a brake disc, once you've done the initial bed-in stage, the pad is touching itself basically. Yep. That's why people don't recommend swapping pad compounds without machining the rotors. If you don't do that process correctly and you thermal shock it too quickly, you'll have issues.
Yep. And
there's almost nothing you can do without. And then people will blame the rotors or the pads or everything else. Like there's so many variables.
Yeah, agreed. 100% agree with that. Do you know what I want to know? I want to know, do you know who Tyler is from PVS?
I know of him. He doesn't have a clue who I am.
Next time, I mean, if you ever get a chance to just watch a minute video of him around Sydney Motorsport Park or any racetrack for that matter, this guy's got a death sentence. I've never seen a guy glow up a brake so much in my entire life and keep pushing it. I want to know what brakes do in that car because it's phenomenal.
But yeah, some pads will also just build heat too quickly for no reason.
Yeah.
Like some pads will just build ridiculous amounts of heat.
Yeah.
You know, like there is real, maybe because it just doesn't work with that disc or whatever it is.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I've seen customers do that. I'll show you photos offline. One of our customers sent through a photo. He's literally turned his. It looks like they've been dipped in lava.
Yeah.
They're black.
Molten.
I've never seen anything like it.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's some people out there that abuse stuff, but there's great pads. Like there's tons of them. Carbotech, like the Project Mu race pads, they've got endurance compounds. They'll glow and they won't fade. You'll kill the brake system before the pads will fail. Like there's tons of good quality brake pads out there. It's just finding what you want.
Yeah.
And they'll cop abuse. Like there's stuff that in the endurance cars will just last forever.
It's fascinating. Also like the amount of tech that goes into building something like that. I froth that stuff. But it's also why I do froth even some of the 86 cars. Because the way they're driven, like these guys just punish these things and they're glowing up. Also, I don't know what it is, but I've cracked a few jokes at BMW owners too, especially around the track. But my God, they can make their brakes glow like nothing else. I don't know what's with the BMW community.
A lot of horsepower and a lot of weight.
Yeah.
It's generally two things that aren't great for brake life.
Yeah.
And like for 86s, they're a small rotor. Particularly for the production car guys, they're stuck on like a 320 mil or whatever it is, whatever size rotor that they run.
Yeah.
So there's not anywhere for the heat to go, so the rotor heats up really quickly.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I remember doing the before and after. So when I was filming like the brake episode, I took the BRZ to the track just on its stock setup. So just stock out of the factory from Subaru. And we absolutely destroyed these things to the point you can't use them anymore. It's
a good day out of the track.
Yeah. So the car went on the trailer home, and then but the night and day difference of like putting those Alcons and the Project Mu pads on, fuck man, holy shit! Like obviously it was going to be better. But when we entered the White Line Tarmac Rally Sprint, I went in the car with the racer for Pro Speed at that point in time. He drove that car. Phenomenal driver, man. Like just incredible person. What he showed me he could do in that car, let alone on that track. Have you ever done the White Line Tarmac Rally Sprint before? Fuck me dead, man. These guys are crazy.
It's a 10-hour driveway.
Yeah. Oh, fucking leave it alone.
Doesn't stop.
The circuit goes in and outside Sydney Motorsport Park, right? But some of these stops, like these hardcore stops, like there's a roundabout in the fucking course. And I'm like, what is wrong with you people? But they're going in and they're just like pushing it to the middle. This guy, he came straight in. His name's Sean. Yeah. Sean came straight in and just hit this roundabout and just immediately hardcore turn right back on the throttle. I went, that is one of the most impressive acts of driving I've ever seen in my entire life. I didn't even know you could do that. That's not possible. Like you just going so fast and coming to a complete stop, turn, and then banging off again. Amazing car because there was a turbo in it and all that type of stuff. Freaking amazing VRZ. It just blew me away, man. Like I just couldn't fucking believe it. Anyway.
No, that kind of reaction, that's part of why I really like the Hyundai community, taking people out to do laps in their cars and showing them what they're capable of. Yeah. But yeah, like a good brake pad and caliper, like the Alcons are a great caliper, will make a huge difference just in pedal feel and performance, consistency.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of trying stuff.
Yeah, it is.
And if you're doing motorsport stuff, do not expect your pad to not squeal on the street.
That's a no-brainer, but look, fair, it has to be said.
Oh, no, you've got no idea how many people come back and go, oh, they squeal. I'm like...
Yeah, dude, because It's not made for the street.
Yeah, it's like the HC pluses squeal a bit, but they're fine on the street. Like they don't really chew rotors. They perform really well from cold, but they'll survive up to 800 degrees. So I'm like, that's a great pad if you're fairly serious at track and you still need something for the street. I explain that to people. I'm like, it does squeal, and they still whine. It's like, you can't have it all.
No, you can't.
There is nothing. You can't have it all. There is no pad that does not squeal, survives on track, doesn't chew rotors. Like there's
It's impossible. Yeah, I know. Yeah. Unless you're willing to quite literally get a whole nother set of calipers and a whole nother set of rotors with maybe a whole nother set of wheels and tires, and you just swap it out every single time.
Or buy carbon.
Or just drive a different car on the street.
There's that. Yeah, that works as well. Yeah.
There's a daily for a reason.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, like God, that MX-5 out there. The every single mob we do, the closer we get to it being a track car, the less and less it's on the street. I mean, it will get to a point where it's illegal to drive on the street, so it's inevitable. Yeah. But as soon as it starts getting hectic with the brakes and all that, no point. I'm not driving it on the street. It's impossible.
That's why our i20 hasn't really been driven much. The noise, the drone, everything else. But that's the faster you want to make a car on track, generally the less nice it's going to be on the street.
Yeah.
People kind of need to, I think people before they start building a car really need to sit down and go, these are the compromises that I'm willing to make, and actually have a serious conversation with themselves about it. Mm-hmm. Because everyone's like, I want to build this car and it has to do this and it has to do this and I've got $2 to do it with, or whatever it is. Just people need to have a realistic conversation of what they want to do with the car and if they actually want to go to the track 6, 7, 8 times a year, or if it's really going to be once or twice, and then pick your compromises.
Yep. Fair enough.
Yeah.
And talking about brakes, do you think, or what would be your top 3 modifications that must be done? Actually, just top modification that must be done for anyone going to the track.
Okay. On the brake side or just in general?
In general.
Okay. I mean, outside your maintenance stuff, like brake fluid, that kind of stuff, pads are a must. Tires, I don't think are as much of a must as people. Actually, no, it's pretty much pads, tires. But the problem is, this is where you go down the slippery slope. You do tires. If you start going stickier and sticky, you have to do suspension.
Yeah.
As soon as you start stepping up from whatever is on the factory car to a AO52 or CRS or RE71 or even worse, AO50s, you just end up with too much tire on the car and the dampers can't stick with it. So you kind of end up in this slippery slope of what modifications you're going to do. And that, again, comes back to people having serious conversations with themselves about what they're going to do. If you don't want to go to the expense of buying coilovers, just buy a tyre that will buy a Bridgestone Potenza Sport or something, or an 8009 that will be fine on the factory suspension. It won't over-tyre it, and just go out and enjoy that. Buy a set of pads that will do a couple of laps flat out, but not a whole 20-minute session, and just do cool downs in between your sessions. When I go out in the I-20 or I-30, I'll do 2 hot laps and then do 1 or 2 cool down laps.
Yeah. I'm so happy you just said that, because I needed someone who, from a professional actual racer standpoint, to say that. I think everyone thinks you're meant to go out as hard as you can every single lap, and I'm like, no, that's not how it works.
Sorry. The tires, brakes, engine, everything falls off a cliff. Yeah. After you've done 1 or 2 laps, you're not going any faster. You're just going to be driving it harder and doing more wear and tear.
Also, if you don't think you've met the standard of what you think you could do in, say, a particular few corners, like you may have just screwed up that particular lap, what's the point in even going any harder? Just cool down, chill out, get your bit, and then start again.
Yeah, 100%.
Lap 4, let's do it.
That's preaching to someone who really needs to listen to that. I get a little bit in my head. That is definitely one of my weaknesses. But you just need to just drive within the car's limits and yourselves. Ellie's i20 has 100,000 kilometers on it and still got the factory rear pads that came with the car.
That's awesome.
Just we're not idiots with it.
Yeah.
You don't need to go out and do a 20-minute session flat out. Yeah. You are just tearing the car up.
Yeah.
You're going to have more fun not going through brakes and tires and everything else as quickly. Like your tires, particularly street tires, are going to get to a point where they just start tearing themselves to pieces.
Yep.
Don't drive like a dickhead. Like the tires on her car, they've got, the communities are like, oh, I'm getting 10, 15,000 kilometers out of them. We just wheel line the car, still did a couple of track days on them and got 35, 40,000 kilometers out of a set. It's just being sensible.
It is. It is being sensible. And I tell you what, Andrew, it's that kind of sensibility, that level of education that I think people actually need in their lives. So I think when it comes to semi-pro,
That's a great segue.
that I think with semi-pro, man, like, is that the level that they like, this type of stuff that we're talking about right now? Is this what they're going to find when they come to semi-pro?
Yeah, it's going to be as simple as how to get a license and how to book online. It's going to start at the bare basics, and you can bypass it if you think you know it, or you can cover it, and it'll go all the way up to the stuff that I really am interested in, like the suspension chassis side. We're partnered with AMB Aero as well to do aerodynamic stuff. We haven't got anyone for tuning or anything along those lines yet, but we eventually want to build it up so it's a proper course, just a little bit more entertaining.
Yep.
That's great.
So yeah.
That's awesome, man. Yeah. And in terms of where people can find you?
So the Semi Pro Motorsport, that's the easiest way is probably get on Facebook, find that, and then all the links are there, as well as on my Facebook page, Andrew Price Racing, or Andrew Price, my own personal page, all the links to all of my social media and Semi Pro's social media there. Go and check out Project Mu and Racer Industries as well for all your motorsport needs and brake stuff.
Unofficial sponsor.
Unofficial sponsor now. And Alcon make great rotors. Go see Paul as well. So yeah, look, just get on my social media. The links are all there rather than trying to remember all the tags, because unfortunately Blender Guy is also called Andrew Price, so a lot of the tags that I wanted were gone.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
And in terms of the next event where people might see you?
So I've got 2 casual drive days where we're just doing some testing and development work with the i30 sedan.
Yep.
So we've got the new 360mm brake rotors, 2-piece rotors we got done with Bremtech, and the HC Plus pads that have just landed. So we're doing some testing with those. Second batch of testing for the production run. And then we've got NFest. So NFest is, I think, the 5th or 6th, 7th and 8th of December, sometime around there at Morgan Park. So if you've got a Hyundai, or you want to paint your car baby blue or whatever, performance blue, and try and slip in, you can come along. It'll be a good event. So
wait, do you have to do that?
It was a joke.
Oh, okay. I was going to be like, no way. No way.
It's definitely a joke. Everyone's like, can I bring my Yaris along? I'm like, yeah, paint it baby like performance blue, and you can bring it along. So no, that's strictly for Hyundai people. Next year I've got the XL that I'm going to try and race in, either the Track Attack or the Sierra Circuit XL Racing Association.
That's awesome, man.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Yeah. If I do okay, yep, it's awesome.
Yeah, we've watched the XL races before. There's some gnarly guys in there, man.
Yeah.
The level of racing in that category is awesome. There is some really fast guys.
Yes.
And
yes,
the Enduros, you get half the field ends up being V8 supercar drivers sharing a car. It's like, okay, this is pretty cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a great cheap category. So that's the plan for next year, unless someone with a lot of money or a company with a lot of money wants to help out and get me to TA2 or TCR.
Yeah, okay. You heard it here first.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm not holding on to that as a hope. The goal is to make enough money to go and do that myself. But yeah.
Semi-pro, man. Semi-pro.
Yeah, exactly. I want signage on the car as semi-pro. It just came around as a piss take. I was like, I just can't take it too seriously. So, yeah, it was a bit of fun.
Love it, man.
I think it's crucial. I think it's something that people lack nowadays. There's too much information online that they think they could find, and they just listen. And there's no accurate or proper information that people need.
Yeah, I suppose a lot of it's hard to know.
Yeah.
There's the accurate information out there, but there's also inaccurate. And sometimes the accurate information gets spread. Other times the inaccurate stuff gets spread and it just goes like wildfire.
Yeah.
So it's just trying to provide reliable sources backed by professionals. So not just me, like actual professionals in their industries. So
almost like endorsing it to some capacity.
Yeah, endorsing it, either their own content that they've produced for the site or endorsing it. And like we're trying to keep it bipartisan. We don't want companies going out and just going, yeah, our product's the best. Like I hate social media influencers that are like, yeah, this product's the best and there's no information with it. We just want them to give people the information about how to make the right choice.
Yep. You're going to fucking love the Built From Scratch series, man. Seriously.
Yeah, I love that stuff. I really want to do one with something.
You're going to listen to me here, tear the shit out of some parts and put it on the car and fuck it up and be like, yeah, you shouldn't have done that.
Yeah. That's why the donut garage, the cheap versus expensive build. Or
High-low.
High-low, yeah, that's it.
Best show ever, bro.
Yeah.
Best
I
show
love
ever.
that stuff. Yeah. Like, that is great. But yeah, just doing stuff, tearing stuff up, like it's...
I got an idea.
Go on.
Pro racer versus beginner. Or actually, I say amateur. Amateur.
Semi Pro versus beginner.
Okay, go on. What is it?
I said it.
Yeah, but
Semi Pro versus amateur racer in the same car.
in the same car.
In the same car. Yeah. And then you can see the difference.
Do the
Video idea right there.
Smash it every day of the week.
Do the old option video. Don't know if it was option, but they used to do where they'd get the pros in the amateur drivers' cars and they would have 3 laps to try and beat. Like the amateur would have 3 laps to set a time or 5 laps, whatever it was, and then they'd throw the pro in and try and beat their lap time in 5 laps. That was great.
That's fucking awesome.
What an idea.
Yeah, that's an idea.
Stealing it straight from Japan. Like, none of this is original. But
I know, but you know what? To some degree, to expand upon your idea, Tones, it'd almost be really good because imagine like you did find some sort of underling, right? You're the pro and we get some newbie in. And over the course of, I don't know, like half the year, we film like 6 episodes, but every single time in those episodes, you've taught them little bits of information, bit by bit by bit, and you can actually see the level of progression by your education and what you've been telling them, what can actually be done with a good teacher. 6 months' time, 6 episodes.
Yes.
That would be hectic.
I did it with Ashton.
Our
When I took my car on the track.
media guy did it with Ashton. Well, that was just impressive. So there's a guy in our team who races go-karts, and he's a phenomenal racer. Dan was setting some times on Semi Motorsport Park, and he decided to give his keys to the go-kart racer, who's been on this podcast before. He's a lovely guy. Yeah. And kind of obliterated Dan's time.
broke your ego a little bit.
He gave him the keys to the 130N, and he basically smashed it. And he doesn't even drive front-wheel drive cars. He just
If you're a good driver, it doesn't matter. You will find a way to make anything fast.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a bit of an ego hit when someone gets in your own car.
Yep. Yeah. But the proof is in the pudding. You put the hours in, you get behind the wheel, you can make a difference. I just think maybe what would help is with a good teacher and maybe just a few tips and you actually take that in and use it.
Not enough people get coaching on track.
Yeah.
Sorry, there's another segue. I know this is getting long, but people need to spend money and get coaching. We'll go out and you'll book like a 10-session package of golf coaching for $800 or $1,000 or $1,200, however much it is, but people will not spend for a day of coaching out in the track. And it's like, you go out golfing, you're just going to fuck your back up realistically.
Too much.
You go out to the racetrack and you screw something up, you have the risk of riding your car off, which most people probably can't afford. So there's great coaches down here like John Boston, Harry Hyack. Alec Hoskins, I think, is going out and doing his own thing as well. Like there are some really good people down here that can go out and coach. And up in Brisbane, Jesse Dixon, Paul Stokel, I can do coaching as well. It makes your days a bit more fun because you kind of know what you're doing. You're learning something, hopefully.
And it's just awesome to have someone like you in the passenger seat, or even if it was just to the point where you're in the bird's eye and you're on radio comm and you're just speaking in my ear and just being like, you're taking that corner all wrong, man. Like, you need to start doing it this way. Like,
Yeah. Otherwise, you're just kind of trying to work things out on your own, and it's not easy.
no.
It's like I'll go and get coaching. So like I've gone and worked with Jesse, and I've gone to Norwell. Norwell's another great place because I knew I was doing something wrong that I couldn't identify. So you need to go and see other people.
Yep.
Everyone needs coaching, and it's for whatever reason, motorsport people do not want to do it.
Ego's too high for them.
All about track school, man. But we've heard great stories, even with the drifting stuff. Like the drifting school, just one day alone, the difference.
It's massive.
The difference is insane.
Yeah.
And I'd say that's the exact same for the circuit as well.
Yeah. Oh, look, I've done post-event Zoom meetings with guys, and guy down here dropped 2 seconds between days, just going through data and helping him explain some of the fundamentals to him.
Yeah,
Like
that's insane.
Just doing basics will help. Just spend the money. I don't know if it's an ego thing or whatever, but yeah, you're going out, you're spending $2,000 on tires, spend a few $100 on coaching.
I'm for it, man. I endorse this message.
Yep.
Cool.
And I endorse what you're doing as well, Andrew. I really do mean that, man. And I hope Semi Pro really kicks off because I think you're onto something.
I hope it does as well because I've spent a lot of time on it.
No, it will be.
Well, Tones, do you want to call us out?
Oh, well, thank you very much, Andrew, for making your 10-hour drive down here.
Thank you for forcing me to drive 10 hours to be here.
It was lovely to talk to you and then have you spread all your knowledge and experience that you have.
No, thank you for providing a platform. I love what you guys are doing. Both of you, you're so fucking enthusiastic. I love it. It's infectious. So yeah, I love what you guys do. Thank you for having me on and making me drive down here.
Thanks, man.
Thank you.
I really do appreciate it. And man, there's plenty much more to come in the future as well. So I think we're going to do more than just podcasts, man. So
100%.
let's rip in. How about this time we come up to you?
Yeah.
I'll drive 10 hours.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll drive
Fair?
on.
Yeah, just work around my schedule.
Yeah, sure. All right, guys. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.